Hello, guys. Welcome to Brain Bites. I'm Nathan Spano I'm a medical student from the University of L'Aquila. And here we have,
I'm Theodora. I'm an artist and mindfulness teacher. Thanks for having me.
yeah, yeah, we are really glad to have you here today.
Okay, so today we're talking about neuroplasticity
Yeah,
and just to boil the concept down to an understandable metaphor, it's kind of like if you go on the same pathway every day on your daily walk, and then there is another pathway that you can go down that shoots off of that pathway. And neuroplasticity is like this. So if the brain has pathways of thought and reaction, these can actually be changed by the brain forming a different pathway. But the reason why it gets so wired into the brain, one reaction is that we get used to it. So it's the same thing, and the brain is taught to expect the same thing. So that's kind of the simple way of describing it. And
yeah,
mindfulness is a tool which can actually change these neural pathways. So before we just thought that the brain stayed the same from childhood onwards. And now we know that with mindfulness, these pathways are able to change at any phase of life. And it
yeah,
actually reduces the stress response.
yeah, that's actually what it happens. And then in our life, neuroplasticity is everywhere, but we can talk about this argument, for example, and we can try to make it useful and a real part of our self-enhancement, just studying how two important systems of our mind together, work together. And then that's why I'm introducing this system. Um, that's really important to know about that. We have the prefrontal cortex, that's the part of the brain related with reason. And then we have the inner part of the brain. And in this region, in this inner part, we have the amygdala, that is actually a pool of neurons stick together that is important for the fly or fight response to danger, and then the amygdala, it's able to activate a chain of reactions that starts in the brain with neurons, and they just go on to the adrenal gland, and that's where it's produced the cortisol. That's a molecule. It's actually linked with stress and with this reaction. And it's even dangerous for our health if we have too much cortisol in our body. And another point that I want to highlight is that the amygdala there, it's just a part of the brain. And so then we can try to change our life, just changing the roads of our mindset, and so we can try to enhance there the prefrontal cortex, and we can strengthen the connections there instead of in the amygdala. And that would make our life more reasonable and more calm. And that's why there we have in the studio Theodora Price, because she's into this type of self improvement, and she helps a lot of people doing this all the time. And so she's here to talk about that and how she's able to rewire the brain. How do you do that? What
Yeah,
is
so I don't actually do any rewiring myself. But what happens as a side effect of doing mindfulness
Yeah,
is that, so this has been proven in studies, is that actually the size of the amygdala responsible for the fight or flight response gets smaller, and the connections with it and the rest of the brain weaken,
yeah,
while the connections between the prefrontal cortex and other parts of the brain, so the prefrontal cortex is to do with creativity, decision making, and higher thought, all of these things strengthen in connection. So that actually, the effects of mindfulness increase proportionate to the hours of mindfulness done. And I think that's just a really helpful thing to know, going into something like mindfulness. If maybe you're a bit skeptical about it or you don't really know about it at all, that there is science behind it, and
yeah.
it's been proven to help with this thing called neuroplasticity.
Yeah, and that's why we have Theodora Price that can always help you every time. Yeah, even online. Yeah, she is a real expert in this field, and she helps real people doing this and improving their life. For today, that's everything. I'm really glad to have you in the studio today, and that
Thank
was the
you.
brain bite that I want to give you. That's everything. Bye,
Thank you.
guys.
Bye.